say the earth without art would just be, get it? We circumnavigate the globe and traverse the local scene to bring you art and culture at their very best. From fine art, culinary art, performing arts, and even cultural events, you name it, and we have got you covered. My name is Kevin Kasioki, and I will be serving you this and much, much more each and every Friday at 8 p.m. only on KBC Channel 1.
Wiki hii kwenye mkulima tutamfuga ng'ombe wa maziwa. Tumkame.
Mayouth wote tungewahimiza wasifikirie ati ukulima ni kitu chafu, wajue ukulima ina faida, na hiyo ndio kazi tunafanya, na watoto wetu tumewasomesha mpaka university na hii kilimo yetu biashara.
Tazama Mkulima Jumamosi hii saa 10:30 hapa KBC. Tukupe uhondo kamili.
A very good morning to you. Thank you very much for watching KBC Channel 1. You are in time for BizCheck. My name is Betty Kiptum. Over the next 1 hour, we shall be talking about matters cyber security. Now, according to Communications Authority of Kenya, in the second quarter of 2025, there were 840.9 million cyber threat events, which was a 27.2% increase from quarter one of this year. And we just want to figure out how Kenya, or what Kenya needs to do to build a thriving cybersecurity ecosystem. And to have this conversation is Alan Juma. He is a cybersecurity engineer. Thank you very much for joining us, and karibu.
Thank you, Betty. I'm happy to be here.
Karibu sana. Alan, we have seen the numbers have been increasing, especially in the past 5 years or so, and the rate has been higher in terms of cyber threats in Kenya. What do these numbers tell you?
These numbers tell us that, well, we'll start with the good, is that there's a lot of technological advancement in Kenya. There's a lot of internet connectivity, internet access, and more people, even the old and the young, are going online more and more. So that is a good thing. People are able to digitize their businesses and also take part in the global economy and also share in the global village. On the flip side, on the negative side, is that it means that because we are now doing more things online, we are becoming targets for malicious actors. Malicious actors, basically, these are people who are roaming the interwebs trying to cause havoc. And this does not mean that we'll be exposed to people within Kenya, within East Africa. It's a global village. So somebody in an Eastern European country will be able to have access to you or even target you. Yeah.
And so, according to the report by CA, the top attacks were AI-powered phishing campaigns, ransomware, and social engineering. Could you break that down for us, the people who are not in that cyberspace, yes, to understand so what these are?
The buzzword, AI.
Yes, yeah.
Everything nowadays is AI.
Yeah.
Jobs will be replaced by AI. People will lose their jobs by AI. But AI is here to stay. It's actually not just coming, it's already here. Right. It's helping businesses. But we've also seen that cyber criminals or malicious actors are also using AI for nefarious activities. So as you mentioned, the number one most attacks last year was AI-powered cyber attacks. So how do the attackers use AI to attacks? One of the most common attacks is what we call phishing. Phishing basically is me impersonating a trusted entity and trying to get information from you or get data from you unsuspectingly. So how hackers use this is because now we are more online, our data is online, we spend most of our time online, hackers know this. So they will go and build a profile on Betty Kiptum. I'll go to your LinkedIn, I'll go to your IG, I'll go to your X, I'll go to your Facebook, any digital footprint that you may have. Then I'll feed it to what we call an AI model, a generative AI model. And then it will come up with a convincing seen email, an email that is specifically targeted for you as Betty Kiptum, so that when you look at it, it will look familiar, it will look at, this is actually somebody who knows me, and this will increase the chances of actually you clicking on that particular link. Previously, what used to happen is I would come up with a generic email and blast send it. I think you've heard of the old attacks, that old mail emails that we used to call Nigerian prince scams.
Yes.
Have you heard of them?
Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah, so we have moved way past that. Now we'll specifically target Betty Kiptum or anybody who we want to target, and we will use AI, or attackers will use AI to specifically craft it, tailor make it for you. We also seen automation as far as attacks are concerned. Like 3 years ago, there was a cyber attack in Kenya, a DDoS attack, that is a denial of service, distributed denial of service, whereby we were not able to access e-citizen and some government portals, as well as some private entities. Now that was also AI powered to some extent, because you are amplifying basically the attacks. So that is how hackers are using. Now, number two that you mentioned is ransomware, right? Ransomware, basically what is ransomware? It's a combination of two words, ransom and ware. Right. So ransom, basically this is software. Once installed on your device, on your phone, it will actually hold your data at ransom until you pay a specific amount of money. Now this is not only a preserve for big businesses, they can also target individuals like you, because your data is worth a lot. So they will hold your data at ransom until you pay a certain amount of money, and you need to pay it in what we call cryptocurrency. Now not everybody knows how to get their hands on cryptocurrency, and one way it is really increasing nowadays is because, again, I said we are online, so we are clicking more, we are more exposed. The third most common type of attacks is what you mentioned is called
social engineering.
Social engineering.
Right.
Basically, social engineering is the art of cracking the human. In Kenya, we call it being a con man. They can meet you phone calls, you know, tuma pesa kwa hii number, all those things. But now it is done at a global scale. Social engineering basically is trying to prey on your emotions, on your innate tendencies to want to help, so that you can do something for me. So, I mean, we have seen, I'm sure if I go to your phone right now, I'll see so many messages, send money to this, send money to this, people calling you. Yeah. So these are increasing because we're also sharing our data online. Yep. So
let's just walk step by step. You've given us quite some information. These AI-powered phishing campaigns, AI is relatively new, and it's been developing at a very rapid rate. And this is happening right now. What is to come in terms of the AI space and cybersecurity? Because these AI bots or whatever it is, they keep learning. They are learning every day from what we are chatting, what we are posting online, whatever it is, they are learning. So what is to come?
Well, what is to come is more sophisticated attacks, more targeted attacks, more large-scale attacks. But also what is to come is that us as the defenders, we will also take advantage of AI to help us automate the threat hunting process. What do I mean? Basically, in an enterprise environment, when I use AI, I can't be everywhere at the same time. I can't hire enough staff to cover my bases. So AI will help me have more boots on the ground, so to speak, so that they will scan the network, they'll scan my infrastructure for any indicator of compromise, basically indicating that somebody has entered my premise digitally without my authorization. So we will see a lot of attacks, but we also see us as defenders also shoring up and increasing our defenses. We also see a lot of businesses being targeted, but also a lot of businesses also gaining advantage because of AI. Yeah.
Of course, the demand is very high for cybersecurity, and we'll talk about the cybersecurity professionals challenge in Kenya in just a little bit. But that report showed that the main targets were government systems, financial institutions, healthcare providers, and education institutions with outdated infrastructure and undertrained personnel. When you look at these, Kenya, all the services, we are accessing them through e-citizen. Financial institutions, I don't know anyone who does not do mobile banking. You know, almost everyone is doing mobile banking. Healthcare providers, everything is virtual nowadays. You don't have to do any paperwork. So it means literally all our information is online, and it is vulnerable. How do we ensure that, or these institutions, how do they ensure that, yes, we are moving to a digital age, but we are also protecting the data that we have, or the information that we have? Okay,
it's very true, and unfortunately, as human beings, when we are faced with a problem, we want to throw money at it. Yes, money can help, but it can only do so much. How can we protect ourselves? How can these institutions that have been the most targeted protect themselves? Number one is what we say is embed security in your organization. Security should not be just left to two guys in a dark room, doing God knows what and just saying, we are safe. It should be talked about, should be spoken about from the very top echelons, from the CEO level, from the board level, because actually a report that was done last year showed that one of the biggest fears of CEOs right now is cyber attacks. So it should be spoken at the very highest levels so that this will set the tone throughout the organization. The other thing that they need to do now is to actually know how many devices do you have, because you can only protect what you know. If you don't know how many devices you have, if you don't know where your devices are, then you will be blind. You will say, I have 500 machines, but in essence, the hacker knows that you have 700 machines. And number three is what we call cybersecurity awareness training. It should not be done just a one-off. It should be something that is drilled into us. I'll give you an example. Cybersecurity should be as easy as using M-Pesa. I don't know whether you remember when M-Pesa started. It was a novelty. I've heard stories about M-Pesa, how the then CBK governor was doubtful, but how he saw it was simple, he immediately gave the go-ahead. Cybersecurity should be made simple, not just a preserve for techies, but for everybody, because as long as you have data, you can be a victim. Yeah. Yeah.
And of course, for these organizations, when you talk about awareness, they say that your systems are only as strong as the people using them. And so you will find that the cybersecurity training is maybe done for the tech department and not the entire company. Or you find that some people, maybe they don't have any tech leaning in their schooling, then they come into your company and they're the ones exposing you. So from a personal perspective, please just give the viewer some tips on how to protect yourself.
Okay, how can you protect yourself? Number one is, I would say always be a skeptic. Always be a skeptic. Don't trust every phone call. Don't trust every link that is sent on your Gmail, on your Yahoo, on your, do people still use Yahoo? Yes. On your IG, on your X. Don't trust every link that is sent. And this is very difficult because as human beings, as I said earlier on, we have a tendency to want to believe. And especially the younger generation and the older generation. The younger generation, they might be a bit naive. They've grown up with technology, they've grown up with IG. So clicking on a link to them is part of their everyday business. The older generation, again, they are not exposed, so they are vulnerable. So always be a skeptic. Number two is you need to do what we call password hygiene. I know this has been spoken about, it has been preached, and at the risk of sounding like a broken record on this show, I will say it again. You need to have secure passwords. Now, what human beings do, or Kenyans do, is you have one password for all your accounts.
And it's the birthday of someone.
Exactly. Exactly. Now, couple that with AI-generated attacks or AI phishing, and we can easily come up with a profile of what your password will look like. So I usually say, yes, you can have one secure password, but you can also involve what you call password managers. Right. It's akin to like having one key to every door in your house, right from the gate to the steel door, to your wooden door, to your connecting door, to your bedroom door. Very, very risky security. The other thing we need to do is especially for people who have online accounts, Gmail, or social media accounts, you need to have what we call two-factor authentication. I know it has been spoken about, but it actually does help. Why does it help? Because there are what we call password attacks. Password attacks basically is a malicious actor trying to get to know your password. They can do this via guessing or automating that particular process, or because we have a huge digital footprint, chances are high that in one of the sites that you registered, you use the same password and that site was hacked. So what the hackers do is once they get that database of the username and the passwords, they put them in a public bin, in a public paste, or they can sell it online. So anybody can go there and just get Betty Kiptum, your passwords to this particular account. And because people know that we are creatures of habit, we like using the same password, I will try the same combination on different accounts, your Gmail, your IG, your X, your whatnot. And if you've not changed your password, then the attacker will have access to your account. However, when you have 2FA, 2FA basically stops that in the middle, because before you complete that login process, a code will be sent to your mobile device or via what we call an authenticator. Thereby, you will stop that attack in its tracks. You'll stop that attack in the tracks. So those three things: be a skeptic, 2FA, and password hygiene, have good password hygiene. And also it won't hurt to actually keep a track of how many accounts you have online. I know it's difficult, but yeah, it would be really good.
Right.
Yeah.
From an investment perspective, when you're talking about cybersecurity to, say, a small company, they are thinking of, you know, how to balance costs here and there. So tell us, how expensive is it to ensure that you have cybersecurity, and why it is important to put it in there as a priority as opposed to, you know, when you're firefighting, when something has already happened. Yeah.
I look at it from this perspective. How much would how much would a breach cost you as an organization, whether you're big or small? What do I mean? How much would it take for you to recover from a data breach? Because you lose credibility, your public image will be tarnished, and chances are high that you will lose data, or worst case scenario, you will lose finances, like banks or whatnot. You may not really lose finances as a result of somebody stealing from you, but denial of opportunities to make money, especially for small businesses that are now trying to get online. If you can't make a sale, that's lost revenue. So I will look at it from that perspective. How much do you value your organization to protect it? So if you value it at a higher, if your valuation is high, then you didn't invest accordingly, right? So it won't cost you an arm and a leg to invest, but it will cost you a lot not to invest. So how can they do it? Number one is, like I said, this conversation needs to be driven from the top level. So if it's a small business, maybe as an SME with 5-10 people, the CEO or the leader should have that at the core of their mind. And you can have what we call basic security. Basic security is maybe antivirus on your mobile device, on your servers, on your laptops, basic antivirus that will just help you from maybe what we call phishing attacks, like I said, malware, ransomware, all these attacks, basic level. Now, once you do that, you can go to other things now. If you have a big organization, now you go to network security. Now, if you have an organization that has an office, you have servers here and there, you have a network, now you go to your perimeter security, you get your firewall, you protect all those things. Now, once you graduate, now you can have what we call policies. Policies are very important. Policies will say, in this organization, this is how strong our passwords should be. In this organization, this is how often we should change our password. In this organization, this is allowed, this is not allowed. Yeah.
Breaches happen.
Yes, we do.
And attacks are successful sometimes. As late as yesterday, we were covering a story about an Australian airline, Qantas. They had an entire data breach, and they're trying to see, you know, how bad it was. So how does a firm or an entity recover from a breach?
Fun fact, by the way. Do you know how long it takes for any organization to know that they've been breached?
Do tell.
Just guess.
I have no idea.
No, just guess. I'll guess.
2 hours.
2 hours, okay.
Yeah.
A second guess?
30 minutes.
30 minutes, okay.
Yeah.
On average, this is average. They might be more, it might be less.
Yeah.
On average, it takes an organization 3 quarters of a year. That is 9 months to actually know that they have been hacked or there's an intruder in their network.
Oh my goodness.
Yes, yes.
Oh, that is bad.
That is bad. It is bad. It is bad. So whatever you see, I know there are legislations, especially in Europe and US, whereby you need to report as soon as you get it. But in Kenya, it's a bit lax, so you may not really hear about it. However, how do you recover from a breach? Number one is do not panic. That sounds elementary, but it is human tendency to panic. You know, do not panic, stay calm. Right. Now, I would advise any organization to have what we call an incident response plan. An incident response plan is basically your playbook. Should we get hit, what are we doing? So it will say, okay, fine, once we have noted that we've been breached, who will be notified? What are the steps to ensure that we secure our network from a further spread of this particular attack? Can we recover? So number one is do not panic. Number two, activate your incident response plan. And number three is, do you have backup? What is backup? Basically, backup is where you have a repository of all your data somewhere else. Rule of thumb is you have to have 3, 2, 1. 3 copies of backup on 2 different medias. One of them should be offsite. What do I mean? If you're backing up on tape, if you're backing up on physical, if you're backing on cloud, those should be 3. Then on 2 different medias. Then the one should be offsite, away from your office, away from your physical location, so that you can always recover. Now, if you have backup, you can easily recover. But if you don't have backup, that is where now you need to go and face the board and tell them, okay, fine, this is the reality on the ground. This is how much we're being asked for. Can we pay? I know practitioners usually say do not pay, and I understand why they say do not pay, because you are actually enabling cybercrime. You're enabling other things like trafficking, you know, like drug abuse, whatnot. However, in such a scenario, if you have an organization's 10-year history that is held at ransom, what do? You do not have backup. I'm not advocating for paying, but I'm saying have those tough conversations. So I would say before you get to that particular breach, make sure you have backup. And don't just have backup, always test your backup, because what happens is you're taking backup but you don't test your backup. What do I mean? Basically taking your backup and putting it in your environment and seeing, is it usable? Is it actually what we backed up? Does it make sense to us? So that when the day comes when you need to restore it, it is actually accurate, it is on point, and it is relevant.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, this is a very important conversation we are having. We are talking about matters cyber security in Kenya, and we are getting into the details of what you need to do as an individual, what institutions need to do, as well as just the cyber security ecosystem in general. And on the issue of building an ecosystem, it's beyond just having vendors, you know, who are offering cyber security services here and there.
Yeah.
What needs to be done? Speak to the collaboration that needs to be done to ensure that we achieve building a resilient ecosystem.
Okay. Well, I would say for you to achieve a resilient ecosystem, number one, again, I will emphasize this, needs to start from the top, because it's very difficult for me at the low level to say we need to have ABCD. Nobody will listen, but it comes from the top. It's easy to push policy, because policy is driven by management, by top management. So you need to have a policy as far as cybersecurity is concerned. Then, like you rightfully said, collaboration, sharing is caring. You know, it should not be a preserve of IT. It's also finance. It's also of procurement. It's also for, I mean, any other department. Then there's what we call ZTN, Zero Trust Network, or Zero Trust Technology. I don't know whether you've heard of that. Basically, it is a methodology or a framework that says, has 3 core principles. It's a bit advanced, but it works. 3 core principles. Number 1, never trust, always verify. Number 2, implement least privilege. Number 3, assume breach. So previously it used to be, once you're in the network, you can do anything that you want. Once you log into your to your corporate network, you can access every other account. However, in never trust but always verify says that even if you are a trusted entity, at every level you want to access a new resource or a different resource, you'll always be asked to say, who are you? How does this work? When I came in, I was asked, who are you? Who are you coming to see? Can you give me proof of who you say you are? Now I gave my ID, left my ID, I was given a tag, came in. Now at every level, where are you going? Who are you going to see? In a network, it should be the same thing. Now the opposite to that is like, once I enter, I've given my ID, I can roam free. I can come right here, you know, in the middle of a broadcast and do my thing. That is not good. So that is never trust, never trust, always verify. Number 2 is implement least privilege. You will only have the rights, or you only have the ability to do what you need to do.
Right.
You can only access a room only when you need to access it. You won't have the keys to the entire kingdom at all times. Only access what you need to access. And number 3 is assume breach. Assume you've already been hacked. As I told you, it takes on average 3/4 of a year, 9 months, for an organization to know that they've been hacked. So you always need to have that mindset. What if somebody is already listening to what I'm saying? What if somebody is already on my network? How would I react? Now that's why we go into deeper things like network segmentation, you know, identity access management, but we won't talk into that.
Right.
Yeah.
When you talked about 9 months to realize that you've been hacked or there's a breach, what can be done to lessen that time, or to just, you know, have signals? What signals can cybersecurity experts and even people who are not really experts look out for to catch this breach?
Okay, I'll talk from the layman perspective, or everyday user, then go to the maybe enterprises.
Please go ahead.
From a layman perspective or from an everyday user, you need to be very, very keen on what is happening on your accounts. Are you receiving a lot of failed login attempts, or somebody is trying to access your attempt? Are you checking those indicators? You know, are you getting messages of random OTPs? You need, if you get such messages, then you need to go and change your password. Now, if you're logged in and you're seeing strange posts, you know, that is something that you need to take note of. You know, if your machine, for example, is showing incredibly slowness, incredible slowness, like unusual slowness. There are pop-ups, it sounds creepy, but at times, things just happen on your machine, then that can be an indicator. On your mobile device, because you spend a lot of time on our mobile devices, I mean, again, slowness, pop-ups on your machine, are you getting random messages here and there? That can be an indicator of compromise. And then you'll fall back to what I said you need to do, or actually I didn't say you do. Once you notice some of those things, number one is you need to change your password. Number two, you can install an antivirus on your mobile device or your laptop. And number three, you can also go and see a cybersecurity professional to try and help you, and they will just advise you accordingly. Now, for organizations, they need to, for organizations. Right. Now, for organizations, like I said earlier on, they need to have what we call an incident response plan. They need to have a cybersecurity team in place. Unfortunately, I've seen in experience that it is left to one guy to do everything. Cybersecurity nowadays is wide. You've heard of the Office of the Data Protection. That's a different office. There's a different office that does maybe the penetration testing. Penetration testing basically is trying to brute force your network or check how strong it is.
Right.
Then there's the compliance. So there are different levels. Invest in people. Invest in resources. Invest also in awareness. Yep.
Speaking of people, we know that there's a shortage of cybersecurity professionals in the country. And of course, we are adopting technology, using it in virtually everything, including in our homes. So the demand is only getting bigger. Why is this gap so big? And of course, it's going to continue growing.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have a different school of thought, if I may. I would say there is not really a lack of cybersecurity professionals. I would say there is there's a wrong perception of who a cybersecurity professional is.
Okay.
And I'll tell you why. This demand might be artificial. It might be. I'm not saying it is, but it might. Because if you go on LinkedIn or you go to job boards, they're looking for entry-level positions. Now, entry-level positions, this person should have had 3 years experience. That's a contradiction, right? They should have 5 to 6 certifications. How? It's an entry-level position. Yeah. So you'll see there'll always be adverts for cybersecurity professionals, but even if you apply, you won't get that job because there's a skewment, there's a bit of a skew in terms of how HR are actually recruiting for these particular positions. So I would say HR also need to know what level they are hiring. You can't be entry-level and you're asking for 5 certifications. You can't be entry-level and you're asking for cloud, you're asking for database, you're asking for network. Those are 3 different jobs. You want to combine it at an entry level. Yeah. Now, why am I saying that it may be a bit skewed is because also there's a huge drive in cybersecurity for certifications. There's no other industry where there's a lot of emphasis on certifications. Get this certification, get this certification. Now, it is good, but it can also be artificially driven. And the promise is get this certification, and they're not cheap, by the way. Get this certification, and you will land a job within 3 months. Somebody will go invest in that certification, and after 3 months, they still don't have a job. Yeah. So it might be artificially skewed. However, there is a need. Whether there's a gap, I'm not too sure. Okay. But there's a need for more cybersecurity professionals. And I would say to maybe any HR person who's listening or anybody who hires for cybersecurity professionals, talk to people who are in the field. Don't look for what we call unicorn hires. Unicorn hires do not exist. Just like unicorns do not exist. You won't get a guy who can do everything in your organization. You need to appropriately hire. Yeah.
And from the training side of things, ensuring that there are more people who are graduating or advancing in education with cybersecurity skills. How can that be done?
Well, there needs to be a lot of private-public partnership. Okay. And we've seen a lot of that. The government has come up with an AI framework. The government is collaborating in the private sector to give, entry-level knowledge as far as cybersecurity is concerned. And we are seeing a lot of organizations, I won't mention them, but many multinationals as well as local organizations are actually having free cybersecurity training, free webinars, free what we call boot camps where you can go and learn about this. And that is really helping because Kenya is really placed at the forefront as far as technology is concerned in Africa. Multinationals are coming to set up shop here. We are being recruited, people are being recruited from LinkedIn because of their skills. So the government and the private sector are actually doing a good job. What I would say is they need to make some of these things more accessible at low cost to somebody who may be underprivileged, but they have a dream, they have the passion, they have potential. Give it to them. Yeah. And
I have heard some experts saying that cybersecurity should not just be studied by people who are venturing into tech-related courses, that it should be integrated into the system pretty early on. What are your thoughts on this?
It's very true. I was chatting to a friend of mine who is doing a PhD in medical research biology. I'm not too sure, but they work with Kemri. Right. So they're telling me that right now what they're doing, they're actually learning to code so that they can automate some of the processes they are doing. They can come up with models that will help them properly identify strains of diseases, of new diseases, properly do that job. So you see, that's a researcher. Maybe biology was needed when they were applying for that course, chemistry or physics. But as they're in that field, they've seen that there's a need for us to actually know coding. So I agree with that. It should be taught at an elementary level. I believe during the Kibaki administration, they had, was it Kibaki or Uhuru? I'm not too sure. But they had brought tablets, digitizing and exposing children to digital skills at a early
It was the last administration.
It was the last administration.
Yeah.
Okay, yes. They tried that, the tabs and whatnot. This is very important because once people grow up with some of these skills, even if they diversify to become a mechanic or a cook, you see they will embed security in their expertise and do that job efficiently, as well as doing what we call value addition. And it will differentiate you in a flooded market. Yeah.
That is very important. Thank you, Alan, for your thoughts. We are talking about cybersecurity in Kenya with Alan Juma, who is a cybersecurity engineer. And if you have been a victim of a cybersecurity attack, or you have questions, on matters protecting yourself, protecting your company, do get in touch with us at KBC Channel 1 on Twitter or across our social media platforms. My personal handle is at Betty Kiptum, and I shall be throwing some of your questions to Alan within the course of this particular conversation. Kenya has come a long way in terms of putting together its regulatory side of things in terms of technology, cybersecurity, data protection. We have the Data Protection Act of 2019. Recently, we had the Kenya Cybersecurity Strategy launched, which is supposed to, it's a plan for 2025 to 2029. As a professional in that field, do share your thoughts about the government intention or intent in terms of dealing with cybersecurity.
Excuse me.
Sorry.
I would say Kenya is actually at the forefront of some of these things.
Right.
I'll take it back a bit. A couple of years ago, as the AU, African Union, came up with what we call the Malamo Agreement. Basically, it was about cybersecurity, how cybersecurity will be done in the continent, because they realized that cybersecurity is an important thing. And we saw not many countries picked this up, but Kenya has actually picked it up. Like you said, we have the Data Protection Act, we have the cybersecurity law, we have a cybersecurity framework, we have an AI framework, we have all these things framework. And government, I would give it props. The people in government are actually doing a lot to ensure that we are at the edge of technology. Not the edge, but we are leading as far as technology is concerned. Right. So the government is doing a lot of awareness. The government is doing a lot of emphasis and also policy regulation. And this, one thing I like about this is that the government is not saying we know it all. There was a call for experts in that particular field. Come, let's sit down and see how can we come up with a framework that we can use, for example, AI in an ethical manner and also to protect ourselves. So I'd say the government is actually helping in that particular area in terms of legislation.
Right.
Yeah.
Supporting cybersecurity startups, is there room for this as opposed to outsourcing our resilience, so to say? Supporting locally grown businesses in this space.
Yeah, but it will not be really supporting cybersecurity startups. Right. It would be supporting startups with cybersecurity. Okay. Cybersecurity given by locals.
Yes.
Now, like Alan, you will come, I'll tell you need to do ABCD. So it is important. You're never too small or too insignificant to have cybersecurity. I mean, your IG account can be hacked just for the likes. People in primary schools have IG accounts and they are hacked like nobody's business. People in campus, people in university, people in high school, they've been hacked. So there is need for any organization, big or small, even if you have an M-Pesa shop, you know, cybersecurity should be embedded in your M-Pesa shop. Even if you're just a tailor, I'm sure you have maybe on GG or on maybe on, I don't know, any other platform where you're advertising yourself, or even on WhatsApp. You've heard of WhatsApp takeovers, right? People's accounts being taken over. So cybersecurity is really, it is needed, like you're rightfully saying, it is needed at all levels, whether big or small. Yeah.
I like that you brought that up. I mean, when you think of cybersecurity, people are thinking softwares and all that, but even that Instagram account is very important. We know what happened with our neighbors. Some of the social media handles were taken over, you know, and things posted. So it is more than just software. Actually, it is a frame of mind. Right. It is a state of mind. I mean, just like when we were growing up, we were told when you go to the city, when you go to Nairobi CBD, you do not talk to anybody, you do not greet anybody, you go to where you're going and you come back. Even brushing shoulders. Exactly. Now, that is security. Now, we need to take that mindset now to the interwebs. I mean, we are busy liking all posts and accepting all friend requests from everybody. So the same mindset should be taken now online as well. People have been told that they are sometimes dealing with bots and not people. And of course this comes with AI. I'm not even sure if this is an AI generated bot or something like that. Tell me what your thoughts are in terms of the ethics of AI, the ethical considerations of AI. I know that the industry is split on a lot of things on that, but please share your thoughts.
AI is here, and business people and people should be asking themselves, is it that I will use AI? Am I ready for AI? Because it's here with us. AI will help, but like you rightfully said, it needs to be governed. I've had complaints. Like yesterday, I was trying to get in touch with a network operator, I won't say which one. And, you know, the shortcodes they were providing, it was just AI after AI, a bot after bot, a voice prompt after voice prompt. And at times, we really need to speak to a human being.
I need to speak to someone.
So, whereas it is good, also organizations don't need to, they need to know that you cannot really, you know, automate everything. Yes, some things that you can be automated, but there are things that can also not be replaced. The human touch is very, very important. Customer care is very important. So on the ethical nature of AI, it needs to be driven by policy, by framework, and this is driven by government and enforced by the private practitioners. So that even as we are developing, if I know that this particular model or this particular system or a tool will expose data in one way or the other, it is upon me now to say that, oh, it may do A, B, C, D, where we prioritize ethics over finances.
And in terms of building tools and networks and, you know, products in the tech industry for this particular context, this market. The other day I was on LinkedIn and there was a whole conversation about how, because a lot of AI is being trained from this market, things are being flagged as AI generated because we are training it with our content. For instance, someone's thesis was returned back to them. They had actually passed. They were going for their first class honors and it had to be returned because the system flagged it as AI generated. Yet a lot of Kenyans are the ones doing these things, even for the West, you know, the Western education system. So I would like to hear from you how we can achieve a balance, because at this rate, everything will be flagged as AI generated at some point. And they say that by, is it 2030, the artificial intelligence will just be as intelligent as humans or even more.
That's what they say.
That's what they say, yes. I said they say. So how can we achieve a balance?
It goes back to policy and also as individuals, our ethics. I'll give you an example. Like last year, I believe I forgot the name, but the ones who own ChatGPT. Forgot the example. OpenAI, thank you, yes. When you're on camera, things disappear.
It happens all the time.
So OpenAI actually sued because how did they come up with, I mean, you can go to ChatGPT and come up with a book within seconds. Just give it a prompt here and there, but where did it learn how to write like that? It scanned already existing data. You know, already existing material. And now they were being hacked because, especially by New York Times, are like, you know, you used our database to generate an AI not benefiting from it. Now, how do you legislate that? How do you say this is ethical and this is not ethical? You just have to come to a round table and come up with policies. And also, us as individuals, we need to have that ethical background whereby whatever we are doing, we're doing it ethically. And if somebody needs to be credited or needs to be compensated for their work, then it needs to be done so. But it's a really difficult conversation or argument, because where do you draw the line on what is ethical and what is not?
Yeah.
So it's a gray area. I won't lay on either, but I'll say legislation will help a lot of these things. And I'm pretty sure from that particular lawsuit, it will change how AI is done and how AI is implemented all over the world. Yeah.
And of course, legislation cannot just be domiciled within a country or within a region. It has to be across borders. Commercial Competition Commission was saying yesterday that intellectual property rights, the laws are very fragmented across the region. And so implementing them against these tech companies or people who are infringing on these rights online is very difficult. One law says this in Kenya, the other one says this in Uganda, so how are we doing this?
We need to harmonize it, right? For example, like GDPR, the European, it's the gold standard for data protection. You know, every country that is in Europe, they came up with one policy. This is what we will do as far as cybersecurity is concerned. Sorry, not cybersecurity, data protection is concerned. And this applies to all EU citizens, whether you're in EU, whether in US or whatnot. If you're an organization operating in EU, you have to follow the same standards. The same thing needs to be done in East Africa. In Africa, that's why I'm talking about the Malamo Agreement. It was a broad-based agreement or framework to how will we deal with cybersecurity. Unfortunately, not many countries have actually taken it up. So we need to grow to that level whereby, like you're saying, we are not fragmented, but we come together. However, it may take a lot of time because of geopolitical issues and, you know, issues that we cannot speak of.
Right. And even as the slow pace of legislation continues, AI and technology is moving very rapidly. It is moving at fast rate, yeah. They say that Gen Alpha, their jobs are yet to come, you know? Their jobs are not yet here.
Actually, there's that fear that jobs will be declared redundant. And yes, there are millions of jobs that might be declared redundant, because I was just reading today morning that IBM is firing of, I think, 1,000 or 3,000 individuals because they're using AI. However, AI will also create so many jobs. Like the people who are actually coming up with the models, generative models from Kenya, you know, teaching it the prompts, whatnot. Those are jobs that didn't exist 5 years ago. So jobs will be lost, but jobs will be created. So on which side of the divide will we want to be?
Right. So it's about equipping yourself with the skills that are required, and of course learning and relearning.
Future-proofing yourself, basically.
Right. And so there are many people who are maybe 40s and above or 35 and above, and with the way technology has moved, they might be feeling like they're chasing it. It's moving very fast ahead of them, and of course scaling in the job market or even moving to new industries might be difficult. What would be your message to them?
Before I answer, there's this YouTube ad that I think you've seen it. Teenagers are using AI. I know you're using AI for prompts, but
teenagers are using AI to build companies and are thriving.
I don't like that ad.
Neither do I.
Are we displaying our age? But I mean, if you stop learning, you will cease to be relevant. So even people over 40 need to keep themselves up to date. You know, technology will always evolve. It will always change. So we always need to be proactive. You can't wait for your manager or for your boss to say, you know what, you need some upskilling, or you know, you need to go for a course. Do it for your own self, and you will remain relevant even in the years to come. I like what Safaricom do. They are always innovating. Just starting from, you know, a telecommunications company, now they're in fintech, now they're doing great things, even telehealth. You know, that is innovation, learning, and individuals over 40, not even over 40, at any age, they need to reinvent themselves over and over and over again.
Wow, thank you so much, Alan, for your thoughts. This is a very interesting conversation on matters cyber security. About 44 minutes past the hour, we'd like to take a quick break. When we come back, we shall be continuing with a conversation with Alan Juma, who is a cybersecurity engineer, talking about how to ensure that Kenya is enhancing its cybersecurity from an individual perspective, institutional as well as a national perspective. Do stay with Channel 1.
Wiki hii kwenye Mkulima tutamfuga ng'ombe wa maziwa. Tumkame.
Mayouth wote tungewahimiza wasifikirie ati ukulima ni kitu chafu, wajue ukulima ina faida, na hiyo ndio kazi tunafanya, na watoto wetu tumewasomesha mpaka university na hii kilimo yetu biashara.
Tazama Mkulima Jumamosi hii saa 10:30 hapa KBC.
Tukupe uhondo kamili.
Hello, fabulous ladies. Welcome to the talk show that's all about sisterhood, empowerment, and unfiltered conversation. We will be focusing on women.
We believe in women.
We are really changing.
We are creating a safe space for women to connect, thrive, and share.
Just because you're a woman on a bike, you're labeled in a certain way.
It's not just a talk show, it's a movement.
When they are standing, we need to stand out.
From heartwarming tales to hilarious adventures.
They could ask me, Catherine, why are you learning?
We are turning the spotlight on women who are breaking barriers in their individual fields.
You have to have a vision.
You are the leaders of Kenya today.
Keeping it honest and relatable.
Mental health is real.
Yes.
Where there is no communication, there is no relationship.
Join the sisterhood on KBC TV for Dada's show.
They say the art without art would just be, get it? We circumnavigate the globe and traverse the local scene to bring you art and culture at their very best. From fine art, culinary art, performing arts, and even cultural events, you name it, and we have got you covered. My name is KBC, and I will be serving you this and much, much more each and every Friday at 8 p.m. only on KBC Channel 1.
Shaba National Reserve spans approximately 250 square kilometers, characterized by rolling hills, acacia woodlands, and the meandering Ewasuniru River. The unique topography creates a striking contrast against the backdrop of the arid plains, offering a picturesque setting that is both serene and dramatic. The river, which serves as the lifeblood of the reserve, attracts wildlife, making it a prime spot for game viewing. Shaba is known for its large populations of elephants, reticulated giraffes, and gravy zebras, some of the rarest animals in Africa. Birdwatchers will delight in the rich avifauna with over 300 species recorded, including the striking Somali ostrich and the vibrant violet-breasted roller.
Not just giraffe, a reticulated giraffe, Brevis zebra, Somali ostrich, long-necked gazelle or gerenuk, and the oryx, the Isa oryx. So those animals are only found in the northern part of the country.
Beyond its natural beauty, Shaba National Reserve is steeped in cultural significance. The reserve is located near the traditional lands of the Samburu people, a semi-nomadic pastoralist community known for their vibrant customs and colorful attire. Visitors to Shaba have the unique opportunity to engage with the Samburu, learning about their way of life, traditions, and the symbiotic relationship they share with the land and its wildlife. Chuma Odim, Magical Sense.
Thank you for staying with Channel 1. That was Irene Muchuma Odim there with an edition of Magical Scenes from Shaba. And of course, be sure to visit any part of Kenya. It's good to tembea Kenya. Our country is very beautiful. In studio, we continue with our conversation here with Alan Juma, who is a cybersecurity engineer, and we are talking about enhancing cybersecurity. We now want to talk about what technology is doing in terms of healthcare. Yeah, specifically on matters telehealth. Please go ahead.
Okay, so telehealth actually is, once COVID hit, a lot of organizations decided to go online, automate the process and take advantage of technology. And healthcare was not left behind. But it actually started quite a while ago. I don't know if they remember, back in the day, Safaricom used to have dial-a-doctor service. Whereby you'd actually do a short code and speak to a doctor and tell them of your symptoms, and they would recommend medication or anything like that. That is basically telehealth, providing health services via technology. Now, it's a new field, and there are actually so many startups in Kenya. They're called health tech startups, who are trying to automate the delivery of medical services, especially in far-flung areas, remote areas, and just making things easier. An example would be, I just spoke to an individual who they're coming up with a way of digitizing their scans. When you go for an X-ray, you get your scan. What do you do with that particular scan? You just keep it in your home and maybe you destroy it. Yeah. But now they're collecting that data to ensure that you don't have to to make that process whereby you build a database that you no longer even have to have those physical documents. You can just go take a scan and the solution will actually tell you what is wrong there and then from wherever you are. But from cybersecurity perspective, they're facing a lot of challenges because health sector deals with what you call EHR, electronic health records, and PII, personal identifiable information. Now, this is sensitive information, like your health records. A couple of years ago, on X, previously Twitter, one of the leading hospitals, there was a former member of parliament and a prominent Kenyan who had gone there for a checkup. And this particular individual, so that was a notable person, so they took out their phone and took a photo of their diagnosis and they put it online. So these are some of the dangers. Now, so they deal with what I've called EHR and PII. Now, this is information that if it got into anybody's hands can wreak a lot of havoc. Imagine you are in you're in a hospital and your records cannot be found. They have been encrypted or they have been held at ransom or they are lost. How would that work? Yeah, so we are seeing a lot of attacks and a lot of interest in telehealth, but the beauty is cybersecurity is also trying to ensure that there is the data is secure, because you didn't want your medical records or your information to be everywhere online. Yep. Yeah.
So in terms of, because we saw that healthcare providers are part of the people who are being targeted.
Yes, yeah.
Tell me exactly what healthcare providers need to do to ensure that these records are safe, because as you say, they are very sensitive data.
Because they deal with a lot of data, encryption is a must. Encryption of data at rest. What do I mean a data rest? Data that is residing on any device, be it on your phone, on your laptop, or on your server. It needs to be encrypted. And also, as data is being transferred, data in transit, it also needs to be encrypted. What is encryption basically? Is encoding that particular data in a way that cannot be intelligible to any human and cannot be broken by any system, thereby securing that particular data from any unauthorized access. The other thing that the medical providers or medical field need to do is update their systems. So many of their systems are legacy. I mean, and it's difficult. I understand it is expensive to actually upgrade these systems, but they need to keep up with technology. And number three is ensure they have secure systems. Every device in a hospital should be at the minimum have an antivirus or have what we call a DLP, data loss prevention, so that data does not leave that particular organization. So
looking forward in terms of cybersecurity, especially for Kenya, what do you see?
I see a bright and rosy future, but I also see a dark cloud in the horizon.
Okay.
Bright and rosy future because the younger generation are really uptaking cybersecurity. There's an interest in that, and because now the level, the playing ground has been a bit level because of globalization. People have access to, papers from Harvard. People have access to papers from, South Africa, where now, so they can equip themselves and learn online.
Yeah.
The dark cloud is, in as much as people are also learning, malicious actors are also learning, and they're advancing at a fast rate. And unfortunately, it might be that we are trying to play a game of catch-up if we do not show up our defenses and if all sectors do not come together and hold hands. But by and large, I see a good future, a secure future for Kenya as far as cybersecurity is concerned.
Right.
Yeah.
Just before we close, I'd like you to remind the viewers how to protect themselves. We have seen so many complaints. I'm losing money from my, mobile banking or mobile money platform, and a lot of times you go to the institution and they tell you you're the one who gave the password.
Yeah, true.
You're the one who gave your ID number and all that stuff, and your password was your birthday or your name.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So just remind us exactly what we need to do on an individual perspective so that we are protected. Yeah.
Okay. From an individual perspective, I started by saying you need to be a skeptic. For those of you who are parents, or for those who are listening who are parents, there's what we call stranger danger. Don't talk to strangers. If a stranger approaches you, this is what you need to do. Same thing goes online. Don't accept any friend request that comes online. Even if somebody calls you and says they're from ABC organization, always be a skeptic. It's highly unlikely that they have chosen you to receive 10 million Kenya shillings. Highly unlikely, so always be a skeptic. Always have what we call password hygiene. Have a secure password. And don't use the same password on different accounts. If really it is difficult, have a password manager. Have one secure password that will protect that password manager and save all these other passwords in that particular password manager. But you need to have good password hygiene. They say a good password is like a toothbrush. Do not share it, change it regularly, and keep it fresh.
I like that analogy. Yeah.
Do not expose it, do not share it, and change it regularly. And also ensure that on all your accounts you have 2FA, and also be a person who would want to learn more about cybersecurity. You see the way we go online after a certain event nationally has happened, who was this, blah, 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 what did happen. Let's be people who actually want to learn about cybersecurity so that we can protect ourselves and our loved ones. It is not just a preserve for a few people. It is for everybody's use, because you have loved ones, children, the old, your house helps, your workers. They all are individuals who access online and need to protect them. Yep.
We need to protect ourselves. Thank you so much, Alan. I think we have learned quite a lot from you. As the viewer, I hope that you have learned something on how to protect your data, protect your phone, your computer, your devices, whatever it is, because technology is here with us. AI is here with us. We are not running away from it. We have to learn how to coexist with it and protect ourselves. That was Alan Juma, who is a cybersecurity engineer, discussing enhancing cybersecurity in the country. When we come back in the next hour of BizCheck, we shall be talking about Kenya-UK ties. And we know that the president was there just this week. And we just want to see where that relationship is going. Do stay with Channel 1.
George Kamau Muhoho joined politics when he left priesthood and ventured into politics in the 1983 polls when he contested and won the Juja parliamentary seat. It is believed that his decision to join elective politics was influenced by the experience of his brother-in-law, Kenya's founding president, Mzee Jomo Kenyatta. Prior to that, Muhoho was ordained as a Catholic priest in 1963 and served the church in various administrative capacities. At one time, Muhoho the priest rose through the ranks of the Catholic Church to serve as private secretary to Pope IV. In addition to service to the Pope, Muhoho was the first black African Pope or envoy to Brussels, Luxembourg, the Council of Europe and NATO. Muhoho left it all behind to enter local politics, and after his win in 1983, President Moi appointed him Assistant Minister for Education, later elevating him to Minister for Tourism and Wildlife in 1987. As Tourism Minister, Muhoho is credited with using his connections abroad to market the country as a preferred tourist destination. Under President Moi, his notable efforts included fighting poaching, especially of elephants in Kenya, which had become rampant in the late 80s. After his cabinet exit, Muhoho, together with Mwai Kibaki, Njenga Karume and John Keane, founded the Democratic Party DP, and he was very instrumental in ensuring President Mwai Kibaki became president in the 2002 general election. In 2004, President Mwai Kibaki appointed Muhoho as Director General of Kenya Airports Authority KAA, where he is credited with overseeing the construction of a new modern wing at Jomo Kenyatta International Airport and a new airport in Kisumu City. However, in 2008, the Efficiency Monitoring Unit raised questions over the expenditure of 1.7 billion shillings on contracts by KAA. The unit, together with the Inspectorate of State Corporations, revealed the KAA board and management had failed to comply with regulations in the awarding of contracts. He left the position in 2010, after which he joined other members of the Kenyatta family to campaign for Uhuru Kenyatta, who became the fourth president of Kenya. In 2017, Muhoho also campaigned for President Uhuru to retain his seat and eventually left the political stage to oversee vast Kenyatta family businesses. For the cabinet, I'm Ben Troy Njue.
Thank you for staying with Channel 1. We now transition into the second hour of BizCheck. My name is Betty Kiptum. In studio, I have Farida Abbas, who is the Chief Executive Officer at British Chamber of Commerce, and we'd like to discuss Kenya-UK trade ties. According to the statistics, is that in 2024, total trade between Kenya and the UK was at £169 million, a 10.1% increase from 2023, of course, with that trade favoring Kenya. One of the few countries that happens. Farida, thank you very much for speaking with us. Please make sense of these numbers for us.
Okay, I think let me start by saying that yes, we are really delighted to see the trade figures increase over the years. Trade has been quite steady, but I think over the last 6 to 9 months that the trade has increased. So Kenya is one of the countries that is more, the trade between Kenya and the United Kingdom is more balanced, whereas the amount of exports that we send into the UK and the amount of exports that UK sends into Kenya is almost the same. What has led to some of these increment, I think it's also the supply and demand in the UK as well as in Kenya. Like we know the top exports from Kenya are coffee, tea, flowers, horticultural products, vegetables. And then from the UK we would have heavy machineries, generators or refined oil, beverages and tobacco. So I just think that the growing demand for both in both these countries and also in the enabling market helps increase the trade between the two countries. Yeah.
Right. And of course, for us to get there, it means there have been quite some strong ties between these countries. Our president was in the UK a few days ago. I'm not sure if he's left yet.
He was there yesterday. I'm not sure if he's still there, but I know he was there on was it Tuesday and Wednesday? Yes, yesterday they had a big conference, the Africa Debate Conference. that he spoke at as well.
And of course, there were conversations about how to improve trade and ensure that more is flowing between both countries. Please do comment on that.
Yeah, so I must say, you know, UK and Kenya, we share a dynamic historic relationship. We're both the Commonwealth nations, rooted in deep values, not only in the political, but also in the economic, academic. So if you see so many students who love going to the UK for studying, the ones who can afford and the ones who can't as well, through the Shivling Scholarship and the Commonwealth Scholarships. The culture as well, I think there's lots of cultural similarities between UK and Kenya, so we really adapt to that as well. And then, of course, the talent between the two countries. I think we are very, very fast-paced. We know what to do. We are very tech-savvy, and so is the UK. So we really do kind of resonate with that. We have more than 200 British companies here, more than that. I mean, we come across British companies all the time when we're at the Chamber of Commerce, and, you know, we could be the first point of contact, but we find companies coming in and setting up here in different sectors. We know the British companies in Kenya, one of the largest employers, one of the largest taxpayers. We, as the British Chamber of Commerce, are one of the largest international chamber in the country as well. So yeah, I think there is a really deep-rooted relationship, and going forward, looking at everything else, I mean, I will elaborate on a couple of things that has been signed this week, and I will refer to some of the notes in the press release that was done by the UK Foreign Minister, David Lammy, and of course our Prime Cabinet Secretary, His Excellency Mudavadi, and some of the things that they talked about, like the UK-Kenya strategic partnership going forward from the year 2025 to the year 30, and what that looks like. So happy to elaborate on that.
Please, go ahead. It's the reason why we are here.
Okay, all right, yeah. So the new strategic partnership, and allow me to refer to the notes as well, because I want to get it right. I mean, it talks about, you know, a comprehensive roadmap to kind of deepen this bilateral relationship between UK and Kenya. And we're looking at the benefit of both the economies, and it aims to drive progress in shared priorities like green growth. We're looking at climate action, innovation, security, and of course the one that's really closest to me and why I do this work with the Chamber of Commerce is job creation. How do we create more jobs? How do we bring in more investment into Kenya? Of course, with a strong focus of practical delivery, and how do we measure this in the next 5 years. So there is a new strategic partnership that has been signed with the President's visit from 2025 to 2030. Couple of really big projects coming into Kenya as well. I don't know if you've heard about the Nairobi Railway City, which is, you know, estimated to bring in the investment, I think more than £150 million to start with. But this is going to kind of just really re-amplify our transport system, kind of create a whole city, urban city within Nairobi, improve the transport system, kind of create new urban facilities for young people to work in and things like that. So that's really a good project that we're looking at. We're looking at Lloyd's coming into Kenya, the Lloyd's Bank, Lloyd's Insurance, sorry. And once they come in here, through the Nairobi International Financial Center, they'll be able to bring and unlock more investment, so secure more investment and assure more investment coming into Kenya. So we're really excited about that. We've got companies like Bupa Global setting up here as their regional Africa office in Kenya, again supporting the healthcare sector and all that. So lots of things happening at the background. We're really delighted for that. There's also a digital economy agreement, digital economy agreement that needs to be signed, or it's been prepared by the UK and Kenya. Again, that will really unlock so many things in the AI space, in the digital space, e-commerce space and all that. So yeah, watch the space.
Watch this space indeed. We shall be delving more into what you have just alluded to. I would like to hear from you, what makes Kenya attractive?
A really good question.
Yeah.
Well, what makes Kenya attractive is, I would say the first thing for me, which I really related to more and more, is our young workforce. Really educated, hardworking young workforce that, you know, everyone that I know is always looking at enhancing their skills. I know I work with a dynamic team within my chamber organization, and everybody's looking at, okay, how do we improve? How do we play a really active role in making a success of the organization? So we have a really dynamic English-speaking workforce and a young workforce, you know. Also, what makes Kenya attractive is we are the gateway to East Africa. An economy to about 300 million people, and you know, you can unlock so much business. Our corridors, the space, how we move from, we have an open port and all, how we move from one country to the other. The infrastructure really helps as well. What makes Kenya attractive, I think more as well, would be the exchange, how you can bring in your investment and take it out easily. You don't have to kind of, go through different regulatory access to your money back. So investors can easily come in and take out their money when they need to.
We have a very well-developed financial system as well, yeah? Right. So all these agreements being signed, Kenyans, I'm sure they are very excited, especially the business people, to take advantage of these opportunities that are coming up. Let's talk a little bit about matters sustainability, the green growth, the climate change investment. We know that our President Ruto has been quite a champion for this, and he's been talking about bringing investments, especially into the global south. Tell us more about that.
Yeah. I think, you can't have a discussion today, in any discussion around business without climate, because it affects so many things. And I think Kenya as well has been really, we have been hit in the past as well by climate changes. We are not the ones who are causing it more. When you can see the Western countries are doing that, but we are the people who are at the end results of it, like the famine that we had and many other things. So I think climate change is really, really important at the top of our focus. I think the President has alluded on so many things. The conference that we had, the climate conference that we had last year, really, and the UK's engagement around that as well. I think even this time when they were there, the UK will mobilize around £200 million to support the Kenya climate adaptation goals, which is amazing. And then it will include, supporting the 1.5 degree Celsius climate target, enabling green transitions and promoting nature-based solutions for sustainability. So we keep seeing more and more investors looking at Kenya as where they can come and invest when it comes to green, exchanging carbon credits and things like that. So there is really good potential around that. We have also seen the government that has kind of unlocked some regulatory frameworks that is helping investment come into the sector.
Right. Thank you, Farida. I would like to bring in Leonard Kafafa, who has just joined us here on the table. He is a governance expert, governance and policy analyst, so to say. And we were just talking about the trade that has been going on between Kenya and the UK, £169 million last year, 10.1% increase from 2023. I would like to hear your thoughts about that.
Thank you for having me. It's exciting. It's very exciting because this speaks to the ongoing relationship that Kenya has had with the UK. It's historical. I mean, we've had very strong relationships from 1963. And the way I would look at it, I would even look at it from the aviation side of things to underscore the importance of the UK to Kenya as a trading partner. In 1977, when Kenya Airways was first formed, the first destination that it traveled to was to the UK.
Right.
That's in 1977. And yesterday, Kenya Airways launched a new route to the UK, the London Gatwick route.
Yeah.
So that's the second destination that Kenya Airways is flying to into the UK after Heathrow. Kenya Airways has 7 weekly flights to the UK, and with the Gatwick addition, it has 10 weekly flights. Let me talk in terms of numbers for context's sake. Last year, Kenya Airways flew about 154,000 passengers between London and Nairobi. 2023, Kenya Airways flew 154,000 passengers between London and Nairobi. In 2024, there was an increase to 180,000 passengers. So when you see an additional route being added, it just speaks to the fact that the relationship is growing stronger by the day. It's a good thing. So it's positive. Yep.
It is very positive indeed. And
Can
of
I
course,
just add
yes,
a
sure
point
thing.
on
Go
that?
ahead.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for mentioning that. We also see that British Airways is looking at increasing their flights around the summer. So that just shows the transactions between the people transactions between the two countries, especially around this. The students that are in the UK, so many students want to come back, and the business people who want to travel around all the conferences that are taking place in the UK. So yeah, Kenya Airways is great and it's increasing and all, but also British Airways is looking at bringing in, adding more flights coming into Kenya and Kenya to the UK.
Right.
Yes, I think we are stirring each other up. Yeah. So just to add on that, we need to also remember that it's not just passengers that are being ferried between Kenya and the UK. We have cargo that rides in the bellies of this aircraft. We have fresh flowers. If you go to the UK, I think the largest importer into the UK of fresh flowers, if I'm not wrong, is Kenya. Because you'll find Kenyan flowers in Tesco's, you'll find them in Sainsbury's, you'll find them in Waitrose. All the leading supermarket chains have fresh cut flowers from Kenya. Then you'll also find fresh produce as well. In the UK, we have vegetables, and you know, UK, the EU has stringent standards for vegetables, which Kenya meets. And you find that these volumes are increased on a year-on-year basis, starting from the first time we had a relationship with them. So it's a very important trading partner. Yeah. Nice.
When you were coming in, we were talking about the investment that President Ruto has been talking about to the global south. And we were talking about matters sustainability, green growth, climate change. And I would like to hear from you your thoughts on that. She was saying that you cannot really have a conversation without talking about climate change in this day and age, because the impacts are being felt here. The emitters are, in another side of the world. Yeah.
Yeah, she's actually spot on, because climate change, green financing is now a very big thing. I mean, every country strives to, I think there is a concerted global effort to reduce emissions, carbon emissions, and Kenya is not an exception. I mean, we are roped into it because we are part of the global economy. Yes, I'm sure there'll be a lot of talk around that green financing because EU sets very stringent standards when it comes to emissions. If you look at car manufacturers, for instance, every year they're given targets that they have to meet in terms of emission control. So you find that they make lighter engines for their cars, more efficient and less prone to pollution. So I'm sure this talk on green financing cannot move an inch forward without, I'm sure this is necessary talk, and it's a part of the discourse that is going to inform the President's visit to the UK.
Right. Speaking of the President's visit, I'm informed we have a story to run that was filed by John Jacob Curia. Of course, it's from his visit to the UK. Let's just listen into that.
The President says Africa's abundance of natural resources should be used to power global progress. Ruto is using the African Debate 2025 to challenge African leaders to include trade and services, technology and human capital to be part of the continent's source of wealth.
This dual reality shows clearly that Africa's growth path cannot be either or proposition. We cannot choose strictly between investing in services or supporting our primary industries. That would be a counterproductive and false dichotomy. We must do both simultaneously.
He says Kenya's bottom-up economic transformation agenda has set the pace as it seeks to create employment and wealth at the base through programs such as the Affordable Housing Project.
In Kenya today, we are modernizing agriculture to increase productivity, enhance food security, and develop agro-processing value chains that add value and create decent jobs. We are also advancing industrialization to build competitive manufacturing capacity, substitute imports, diversify exports, and anchor resilient local supply chains.
What African people want from Britain is exactly what British people want from Africa. We want growth.
Meanwhile, the President has reaffirmed the government's support for a financial ecosystem that fosters innovation, upholds trust and delivers prosperity. Speaking during the signing ceremony between the Nairobi International Financial Centre Authority and Lloyds, Ruto termed the formal announcement of Lloyds' intention to establish a regional office in Nairobi a significant milestone.
Kenya is home to one of the most advanced financial ecosystems in Africa, with mobile banking, digital payments, and fintech innovations that have expanded financial inclusion to over 84% of adult population, up from 26% in 2006.
Well, those are conversations that have been happening during President Ruto's visit to the UK. And of course, he mentioned Lloyd Insurance coming into Kenya. There is also the very important issue about international financing and making sure that the credit rating favors the global south as much as it favors the global north. So, yes, thoughts on what he just said? I'll start with you, Leonard.
Okay. I'm excited about Lloyd's coming into Africa, or into Kenya rather.
Yeah.
Kenya has been positioning itself as a regional financial and insurance hub. We've got banks here like KCB that have regional presence. We've got Equity Bank. I think we've got I&M Bank and a couple of other banks that don't come to mind immediately. But it tells you that we are banking for the region, not just for Kenya itself. We are in Sudan, we are in DRC, we are in Uganda, we are in Rwanda. I think we are in Tanzania as well. So it tells you something that if we look to London in terms of setup of a financial and insurance center, then we are looking at the right place, because that's what drives London. That's what drives Hong Kong. So we are on the right path in terms of looking to London to help us set up this insurance thing, because insurance is big. Lloyd's is a big name. I just mentioned Kenya Airways a few minutes ago. You might want to know that Kenya Airways is insured by Lloyd's of London. So it's a big thing, bringing them here, having a local chapter, helping us now spread out to the rest of the region.
Yeah. Thank you, Leonard.
Yeah, I think just echoing what he said, I think it's a really big deal for Lloyd's to come into Kenya, and the amount of investment or the amount of de-risking they will be doing. When we spoke earlier, I mentioned that, you know, it will open up other avenues of other sectors coming in and be de-risking through Lloyd's and creating more jobs, so more investment can come in. I think also the Nairobi International Financial Center, the incentives that they can give when companies are registering through them is really, really important, and this is what has kind of excited and just, kind of attracted Lloyd's to come in as well. So more of that is what we would be looking at in the coming years, at how do we get more companies coming in from the UK or anywhere else registering with the International Financial Center, but getting those concessions, getting those incentives that the companies can work in Kenya for.
You mentioned the Nairobi Railway City that is set to come. We of course know that the challenge of public transport in Nairobi is a huge one, and there have been efforts to try to sort out the situation. Leonard, I'd like to hear from you on this one.
It's another very exciting development. I know it's been modeled after King's Cross and St. Pancras, which are side to side in London. And if you study the history of both places, in the past there were dens of muggers, prostitution, drug dealing, before they were gentrified, before they were cleaned up and transformed into a center of commuting, and into an international center. I think there's one, if I'm not wrong, it's St. Pancras, that has a station that connects directly to, has a train station where you can take a train and move to the rest of Europe. You can go through, I think, the Euro Channel directly to France from St. Pancras station. So that area has been gentrified, shops have been set up, and the place actually is very safe to walk at any time of day or night. So that's the same model we are possibly following when it comes to the Nairobi railway city. We want to gentrify our railway station, wherever it is in the center of Nairobi, to make it safe at any time of day or night. And we also want to make it, we want to set up high-end shops, we want to make it attractive to shoppers, for people who have fled the CBD to come back into the CBD. We also want to make it a commuter center, a place where you can get organized public transport in and out of the city. So that's the vision, I think, and I'm excited about it. Because I know St. Pancras, I know King's Cross Station, and I know how they run and how efficiently they run and how good they are for the UK. So if that kind of development can follow and come to Nairobi, then that would put us in a very good place.
Right. Yeah. The way you were speaking, I was sure you have been at that railway station.
Oh, yes, definitely.
That has to be lived experience.
It's really beautiful. I've been there a couple of times as well. And I just want to add to what he said. Sure. I think this is the UK's flagship program project with Kenya. started off with all the scoping that was done with KPMG and Atkins and all, and then there was a groundbreaking a couple of, I think it was last year or the year before and all, and I'm really, really glad to see that it's moving forward now. The UK, with this visit of the President, has confirmed that financing from UK Export Finance, about £150 million to start off. I'm sure it will require much more than that, but just to get it going and then have more investors coming in, have more private-public partnerships come in and all that. We're looking at about more than 10,000 jobs initially, just to start off with, will be created from that. And I think, like I told you, what's really close to my heart is creating more jobs for us Kenyans.
Right, creating more jobs, very important, especially considering the unemployment rate in the country being high. As you said, a very educated and tech-savvy populace that we have of young people. I'd like to hear from you, Leonard. Oh my goodness. My point has literally disappeared.
Not to worry.
I'm sure we'll come back to it just now.
We can only circle back to it.
Right. Yes, I have it. It's back. The trade imbalance, or the trade balance, so to say, between Kenya and the UK. 78 million pounds Kenyan imports from the UK in 2024 against exports of 1.1 billion. Most of the time when we speak about bilateral relations, bilateral trade, it's the other way around. So what lessons do you think can be borrowed from this relationship between Kenya and the UK to improve our trade relations with other countries?
Kenya is a developing country, and it ought to receive a lot more support from its international destinations, very much in the same way UK is giving us support. So if that model can be followed, where we manufacture more for the outside than we import, that can help to correct the unfavorable trade balance between Kenya and her other trading partners. So my take is that, we need to maybe get a lot more investment into the country so that we support our manufacturing sector, because that is where we are lagging. Like I mentioned, trade, insurance and finance is one of the sectors where we are doing very well. It does not require a lot of power in terms of electricity to run an insurance and banking sector. We have schooled, very well schooled population, as my colleague has mentioned. We need now to look for the middle cadre citizens of Kenya, people with more hands-on skills than white-collar employees. So this is where the opportunity lies, broadening our manufacturing base so that we export a lot more and we correct the unfavorable trade balance. We need to stop exporting raw material. We need to own the entire value chain so that we finish our goods here and send them out as exports, as finished products. But that will also entail a negotiation between Kenya and her trading partners, because the reason why a lot of times the reason why we don't export, other than electricity, other than the cost of production because of electricity, a lot of other times is because our trading partners slap tariffs on us for finished goods. So we need to negotiate with them so that we can get favorable tariffs like the UK, say, for instance. And then, that can address the trade imbalance.
Thank you. I'll get back to you in a little bit, Farida, to get your thoughts on that. We'd like to take you to Milimani Law Courts, where the lawyer come blogger who is Diangui Kinyagia is in court currently. Speaking is Martha Karua, who is senior counsel. Let's just listen into those proceedings.
Yes.
Good morning. My name is Kiptum. I am here together with Mr. Christopher Marlow,
The other one is Vincent?
Minister Shiitake, Christopher Marwa.
Yes, my name is Kiptum.
Well, those are live pictures from Milimani Law Courts where lawyer come blogger Ndiangui Kinyagia has presented himself in court. According to a statement is that he of course he went missing last week, and he contacted his family that he is well, healthy and safe. He says that he indicated to a family member that he had hidden temporarily for the fear of his life. And he says that he is willing to present himself to the DCI and to be presented before any court of law when his safety and security is guaranteed. Of course, our very own Ruth Wamboi is on the ground following the proceedings there. What you just saw is that Justice Chacha Mwita was taking a quorum of the parties that are present before the hearing continues. We shall be following up on that and linking up with Ruth Wamboi in just a little bit to get more details from the Milimani Law Courts. We get back to studio and continue with our conversation on matters Kenya-UK trade ties. And with me is Farida Abbas, the CEO of British Chamber of Commerce, as well as Leonard Kafafa, who is a governance expert and analyst. I would like now to hear from you, Farida, your thoughts on lessons that we can take from the Kenya-UK ties, to expand in terms of our diplomacy and bilateral trade. Right.
I think what Leonard said is really important, having a really robust economic partnership agreement. So for the UK-Kenya, we re-signed this around COVID time in 2020, and it is in action from 2021, and it continues to, provide the duty-free and quota-free access to UK-Kenya markets. So let's say including critical products like agriculture, tea, fresh vegetables, flowers, pharmaceuticals, ensuring that we do export and import very seamlessly through this particular partnership agreement to the UK and into Kenya as well. I think also, if I may just mention here, the UK also has gone through its own challenges in terms of post-Brexit and how now it is kind of re-bringing itself or kind of inventing itself to work with the EU and with its Commonwealth partners. I think where we can really focus on is looking at how well and how much more we can improve for the UK to work with its Commonwealth partners, like Kenya, like the other countries. I think there are huge number of potential there. So how can other countries use this particular example? I think just improving the EPA, the Economic Partnership Agreement, constantly looking at what needs to be assessed, what tariffs, and the tariffs is the biggest thing in any country, and we can see when right now the global tensions is around tariffs, isn't it? So we were going to move from there. We were going to say that let's have more tariffs taken away so that there can be seamless transactions of trade into the world. But I think we're going the opposite way, which is not really conducive for trade. So let's create more conducive environment when it comes to tariffs. Let's work with the Africa Free Trade Agreement, the AfTA, and see how we can leverage on that. But I think it's very, very important for the EPA to be active, to be adhered to be when something is not going according to the Economic Partnership Agreement, to bring it back on the table. We have had challenges in the past, but just bring it on the table and saying, this is what was agreed, let's go back to it and make sure that happens. That really supports the country's trade and investment.
Talking about tariffs, of course, it is said that there is a new world order that is forming. Countries can now speak as partners as opposed to big boy, small boy kind of conversations. And I would like to hear from you the dangers of protectionism, so to say.
I think for me it's a question of reciprocal tariffs,
right?
Where reciprocity is key, because every country has its industries, and every country is entitled to protect those industries from cheaper imports. So tariffs basically step in to protect the industries of countries, especially nascent economies like third world countries. That's why most times you see it's the first world countries that allow third world countries to import tariff-free. Then I still allow the same trading partners to levy tariffs to protect nascent industries in these developing countries. So that's the conversation that must be ongoing, because tariffs, duty and quota-free exports can never be indefinite. When there is some level of development, when there's some level of leveling of the playing field, so to speak, then there must be a revision of those tariffs and quotas. So for my message to developing countries is that they mustn't stick too long. I mean, they mustn't bank on tariffs indefinitely. We've seen AGOA coming to an end, I think, in September. In fact, it has been brought to an end prematurely by President Trump's reciprocal tariffs. We should have had a conversation about what next after AGOA. We should not be stuck. We should not be caught like we should not be stuck like a deer caught in the headlights, not knowing which way to go. This is yet we've known for years that AGOA is sure to come to an end at some point. So we should have had a conversation from as way back as 5-10 years ago about what to do post-tariff, or post-AGOA, and what to do if other countries decide to also levy tariffs on Kenyan produce or third world country produce. So that's the conversation that needs to be had rather urgently. Okay, one way, of course, is Africa, as she's mentioned, the Africa Free Continental Trade Area. That helps that removes barriers for trade within Africa. So it helps the developing countries of Africa, I think, because we're in the global south, it helps African countries then to be able to trade within themselves, even if it becomes expensive to trade with the outside. So that's one way of looking at things. Remove all the boundaries, all the tariffs and the quotas that exist between African countries to enable them to trade themselves within themselves, to refine their industries, to bring them to a level where they can now trade competitively with the countries of the global north. Yeah.
Right. Farida, your thoughts on that?
Yeah, and I totally agree with Leonard. I think we need to do more of that, open up more trade corridors within the East African communities as well. You know, goods coming in from Kenya to Kenya that can seamlessly move into the East African communities, but also in the wider Africa continent. With the UK, I know that the objective is to double the trade by 2030 with this new partnership. So all that will really depend on the tariffs and how well we do that, and how much, you know, there is that much market in Kenya, but there is so much market in East Africa, market in Africa as well. So we should be looking at how do we leverage those tariffs again, then just open up the trade corridors, the transportation and all that, making it more seamless for our trade, bilateral trade.
Right. You mentioned the issue of Africa being a net exporter, especially of raw materials, yeah? And so I'd like to get your thoughts on value addition and ensuring that we are not just exporting raw materials, but finished products, semi-finished products, more value, you know, and more money. Yeah? At the end of the day, yeah.
I mentioned one thing. I mentioned that tariffs on the other side are a hindrance when it comes to export of finished products. Because when you export raw materials, you're allowed to do that tariff-free to many destinations. When you finish the product here, you value add and you own the entire value chain, it becomes more expensive on the other side and thus uncompetitive. So that's something that needs to be looked into. But speaking about the Kenyan scenario, we honestly need to do something about our power, the cost of power, because everything, if I may borrow this phrase, everything rises and falls on power. Everything rises and falls on the cost of power. Our power is very uncompetitive. I think whatever we sell to manufacturing concerns is about, say, 10 to 12 US cents per kilowatt hour, whereas our competitors are selling at 4 cents per kilowatt hour. So we are about 4 or 5 times more expensive than the competition, which is an untenable situation when it comes to manufacturing. We need to redress that, and we need to do it urgently. Even if it means giving incentives, setting up these special economic zones that we have, and allowing the cost of power in those zones to be cheaper than, say, the rest of the country, even if it means subsidizing them, so to speak. It is something that we must contemplate, and it's something that we must do, because we cannot do without manufacturing.
Right.
Yeah.
Farida, you're shaking your head in agreement.
I am. I'm in 100% agreement with Leonard. I think one of the biggest things, even for the manufacturing sector, is the cost of power. And we're not competitive when it comes to the region or even the continent. And we compare ourselves to Egypt, and we look at, and we've done this whole study, giving it to the relevant stakeholders and saying, look, if you improve this, then this happens, and there's more production that can take place. This directly also touches on our SME sector, because value add, you're looking at smaller packaging materials, you're looking at, what else can be, like if you just take tea, for example, how do we create value add or tea, instead of just exporting tea into the UK, how do we do the finished product here? Packaging, the artwork around it and all that can be done here. So supporting our SME sector, whereas lots of jobs can be created. So it has a ripple effect. I think the manufacturing sector, when it comes to power and the cost of production and the cost of, even sometimes the goods coming into the country, there's slightly more the raw materials coming in for that finished products, they're slightly highly taxed or tariffed. So that needs to be also looked at, so that we can have the final product, or we can create more value add to our products and support our SME sector to create more jobs and then export the final product from Kenya. I think that's really, really important what you said. So more work needs to be done there, I would say.
Right. And of course, this information is not new to the government, is it?
It's not.
It's not.
It's not. Unfortunately, when it comes to power, we are captive to very expensive power purchasing agreements that were signed by other administrations in past times, and that are locked for a certain period of time, and that cannot be renegotiated downwards. It's unfortunate. They cannot be cancelled without penalties. They cannot be renegotiated downwards. So that is why we find that we have this power conversation year in, year out, and nothing seems to ever move, the needle doesn't move, so to speak. So we just need to figure out how to do this, like I mentioned, perhaps subsidize. Yes, we know that the cost of power is exorbitant, but we still can't subsidize industries that are manufacturing for export. We need to subsidize that power for them.
Right.
Yeah, to create our manufacturing, to expand our manufacturing base. Yeah.
A question to you, Farida. You said that you're very passionate about creating jobs, and of course the SME sector is the biggest job creator in the country, maybe even in the continent, And I would like to hear from you in terms of supporting these small businesses to access the export markets. What is being done right? What needs to be worked on?
Right. I think one of the biggest things when it comes to supporting the SME sector, when it comes to exporting, is we need to look at what type of quality are we putting out there, What are our standards? Is it meeting the international standards to be exported into the UK or anywhere else into the market? We need to help our SMEs, or we need to help our cottage industries or whoever else is looking at exporting to kind of really build a product that will be sustainable, will be, will be valuable in those markets. So we need to build the capacity for people, I think, on the ground. We need to really help those SMEs build capacity. We need to help them build the finances that they need to build that particular product. So access to finance, access to more investment or angel investment into their organizations. So capacity building, access to finance. We need to support the SMEs into opening the markets into those particular countries as well. So, whatever products that they're looking at taking either into the UK or anywhere else, how do we open those markets into those countries for them? So creating that market on the ground. I know a lot of companies have approached us in terms of the courier, the products that we have in Kenya and in the Maasai markets and all that. How do we export that? I mean, there's some beautiful products there, How do we create that it meets the international standard and take it into the UK, not only for the niche market, but for the mass market, So right now you can see a designer, really good material kind of a dress for a Kenyan going into the UK, which is a designer, and it just sells for a few people. So how do we make that into the masses? So work needs to be done there, I think, in terms of opening the markets, capacity building, access to finance, a little bit of mentorship as well to those organizations will be required.
Right. Something to add on SMEs?
Yeah, I agree with what Farida has said, and she's also mentioned mentoring. You look at the way coffee operates in this country, we have, so to speak, mentors. We have people who own what you call the chain of custody, so that they are able to tell the quality of coffee, right from the farmer who plants and who harvests his green cherries, and before they're transformed to whatever it is, or is it red cherries before they're transformed to green beans. Yeah, so there are people who own that entire chain of custody, people who are trusted, who have an international reputation, people who are able to give certification, for instance, a Green Forest Alliance, for instance, fair trade certification, to show that the labor practices that were used in the production of those goods and services was acceptable along international standards, to give assurances that whatever product, the product that has been manufactured or processed from Kenya is of an international standard. So those are the kind of mentors that we need, who can help us, as in form our own chains of custody. We can ride on their chains of custody for a number of years. There's no easy way of doing this. It's a process that will take time, maybe 5, 10, 15, possibly even 20 years. We can ride on their chains of custody and develop our own chains of custody as we do that. So that's one way of doing it. So that we build the small guy. I mean, we get the small farmer or the small SME, teach them the standards that are required out there in the world, and enable them now to stand on their own after 5, 10, 15 years or so.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. I would like to just take our viewer back to Milimani Law Courts, where Ndiangui Kinyagia, the lawyer and blogger who had disappeared or who went missing last week, is in court currently. Let's just listen into those proceedings.
But there are procedural issues of compliance, which I believe we can proceed with still, now that the DCI is here. There are issues about the modus operandi becoming so many, and directions of this court, after listening to the answers the DCI may give, may help save the court the time we have spent. So we are seeking your indulgence, but now that the DCI is here, we at least can deal with matters of compliance today. And any other procedural issue we might wish clarification from the DCI. And I want to say, when an application like this comes to court, it is not just about the person for whom the matter is brought. It's also about for the rule of law and for the safety and well-being of everyone. We'd be happy to proceed with the DCI.
I know what you're doing. Senior Counsel, I look at my direction and I want us to look at it.
Have a copy?
Yes, they were very clear on what I wanted. We are here on for one subject.
I'll read number 5.
I'm aware. The subsequent direction.
We shall be taking you back to Milimani Law Courts in a little bit. Of course, those are proceedings from Milimani Law Courts. Ndiangui Kinyagia, lawyer and blogger who went missing last week, is in court. You have seen DCI boss there, Amin, is also in court. So we shall be following up on those proceedings in just a little bit. But in studio, we'd like to end up our conversation on matters Kenya-UK trade ties with Farida Abbas, CEO of British Chamber of Commerce, and Leonard Kafafa, who is a governance expert and analyst. I'd like to get your final remarks, 1 minute each, as we close. I'll start with you, Leonard.
we've said that this is an exciting time. One aspect that I haven't mentioned is, or probably haven't mentioned, is the fact that President Ruto made an address at King's College in the UK. You know, King's College is a very prestigious university. It's, I think, 5th in the UK. It would be the equivalent of Ivy League universities in the US. And making an address there is not given, an address, a platform at King's College is not given to every Tom, Dick and Harry. It's given to statesmen, it's given to people who have global influence or emerging leaders in the global arena, people who are thought leaders and who can share something with the world. So that in itself is a major step, is a feather in the president's cap. And the other second bit that I would like to note as we conclude is the fact that he also went to the London Stock Exchange, rang the bell, and opened, for opening of trading there. You know, the president has indicated that there are parastatals that he would wish to dispose of through the Nairobi Stock Exchange. And I think he's been there, was like a marketing pitch, to say that, hey, look, we have great parastatals in Kenya, and can the UK now, companies or individuals, buy in terms of shareholding into these parastatals? So it's a great thing. Yeah, so those are my remarks. Yeah.
Thank you, Leonard. With you, Farida?
Yeah, from my end, I think we're really excited about this visit and the new partnership that has been formed as well, the strategic partnership. We're looking at, in the next 5 years, it is a really ambitious target of increasing this by £1 billion. At the moment, the UK-Kenya trading partnership, trading bilateral trade is at £1.8 billion, and you just broke that figure down earlier. So in the next 5 years, we'll increase it by 1 billion, which is really nice and ambitious. So as a Chamber of Commerce, we're here to support all those industries. Really happy to support all the other discussions that are happening around King's College, Nottingham University, Liverpool School, and all that around manufacturing. And just want to end with saying that, you know, we will be having a UK-Kenya Business Forum in January 2026. So we're looking at bringing in more companies from the UK. We work with 156 other British Chambers of Commerce around the world. So, you know, how do we get them to come and see what's happening in Kenya? So that forum will be really, really good. So get in touch with us, and we're happy to support.
Awesome. Thank you very much for your thoughts. And of course, we shall be keeping tabs with the numbers as we go into the 5 years to see if that trade is doubled.
Oh, wow. Thank you.
Asante sana. So I have been speaking with Farida Abbas, CEO, British Chamber of Commerce, and Leonard Kafafa, who is a governance expert and analyst. We have been talking about Kenya-UK trade ties, £1.8 billion in trade so far. That is in 2024 alone. And of course, as she says, the future is bright. We look to double that number by 2030. And that is where we end BizCheck this morning. Thank you very much for keeping us company. We hope that you have learned something from the first conversation on cybersecurity and also on UK-Kenya trade ties in the second hour. My name is Betty Kiptum. Do enjoy the rest of your viewing. Bye-bye.
In spring and autumn, Japan's forests are ripe with mushrooms. Of all the many types, Shiitake are perhaps the mushrooms most often used in washoku or Japanese cuisine. Both fresh and dried Shiitake are used. The dried mushrooms are first rehydrated by soaking in water. Shiitake produce the umami flavor that's the basis of all washoku. Not only delicious, but also safe and chemical-free, Japanese dried shiitake are growing in popularity abroad. 16 countries now import major quantities of these delicious meaty mushrooms that are often cooked in the same way as steak. Oita, in the southern island of Kyushu, is Japan's largest producer of dried shiitake mushrooms. 70% of Oita is forested, and these forests contain many broadleaf trees like oak, and especially sawtooth oak, that are ideal for shiitake cultivation. There are two methods of shiitake cultivation. They can be grown indoors on artificial mushroom beds and on logs out in the forest. Shiitake for eating fresh are usually grown indoors, while shiitake for drying are grown outdoors on logs. For indoor cultivation, mushroom beds of finely crushed wood with added nutrients are inoculated with shiitake spores. Our organic shiitake mushrooms are grown on beds made from freshly cut sawtooth oak, grown right here in Oita. To help the mushrooms grow, we infuse the beds with specially selected natural nutrients. Temperature, humidity, and light are precisely regulated to ensure uniform results. In the outdoor method, logs inoculated with shiitake spores are left stacked up in the forest for the mushrooms to grow naturally. The first step is to cut trees to make the logs. Sawtooth oak is an evergreen, acorn-bearing tree. This is shiitake farmer Kurahashi Kiyoharu and his son, Seizo. After felling the trees, they leave them to dry naturally for several months. The sawtooth oak is fast-growing, and it takes just 10 years for a new tree to grow back from the stump. After the timber has dried, they cut it into 1 meter lengths, then drill holes to implant plugs containing the mushroom spores. The inoculated logs are then stacked up deep in the forest. They'll be ready to harvest in about 2 years. See how